Imagine this. Everything you fear about yourself, every single hidden flaw, every painful memory you desperately try to bury deep beneath the surface, that darkness you avoid looking at in the mirror, is actually the raw material for your greatest superpower. It's not a weakness. It's untapped strength. This isn't just fluffy self-help talk. This is the profound, mind-bending secret hidden within the work of one of history's most brilliant minds. Get ready, because what we're diving into today will fundamentally change how you view fear, failure, and the messy reality of being truly human. Hello, Tantaman, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are taking a thrilling, yet perhaps slightly terrifying, journey into the core of ourselves, guided by the legendary Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. We're not talking about simple anxieties or phobias, but the deep, existential fear of the unknown aspects of our own personality. Jung gave us the tools to understand this inner turmoil, insisting that the way to true peace is not by running from the darkness, but by turning on the light and looking at it straight on. Prepare yourselves, because we are about to confront the enigmatic concept of the shadow self. Now, who exactly was Carl Jung? He wasn't just Freud's protege who later broke away. He was the architect of analytical psychology, a master cartographer of the soul, obsessed with archetypes, the collective unconscious, and the journey toward wholeness, which he called individuation. He believed that much of our suffering, especially our crippling fears, stem not from external circumstances, but from an internal civil war, a battle we didn't even know we were fighting. Right there in the quiet corners of our mind. Central to Jung's understanding of fear is the concept of the shadow. Think of your conscious self as the highly curated highlight reel you show the world, the polite, capable, and well-adjusted person. The shadow, then, is everything that didn't make the cut. It's the impulsive anger, the petty jealousy, the selfish desires, the socially unacceptable aggression, and crucially, the hidden talents and brilliant potential that you felt you had to suppress to fit in or survive. This hidden aspect doesn't disappear. It just gets shoved into the subconscious basement. Here's where the link to fear becomes crystal clear. Anything we deny or repress within ourselves often gets projected outward onto the world. If you deeply fear aggression, you might suddenly perceive almost everyone around you as hostile or dangerous. If you refuse to acknowledge your own capacity for failure or dishonesty, you'll constantly be suspicious of those you meet. Our deepest, most irrational fears often act as smoke signals pointing directly to the parts of our shadow that we refuse to own. But hold on, this is the exciting part. The shadow isn't purely evil, even though it contains our darker impulses. Jung famously taught that the shadow holds gold. It contains vigor, spontaneity, instinctual wisdom, and necessary assertiveness, all the raw energy that we need to live a passionate, successful life, but which we've labeled as bad or too much by fearing the shadow. We are simultaneously fearing our own power. What happens when we keep this powerful energy locked away? It doesn't stay quiet. Jung warned that the unacknowledged shadow becomes autonomous. It starts acting independently, hijacking our behavior at the worst possible moments. Have you ever exploded in anger over something tiny, or found yourself engaging in destructive habits that seem totally out of character? That's often the shadow saying, "You ignored me, so now I'm driving." It's terrifying because it feels like a loss of control, but it's a direct consequence of denial. Jung's ultimate challenge to Kalian is simple, yet revolutionary. You must integrate your shadow. Integration is not about becoming a monster. It's about acknowledging that you possess the capacity for both light and darkness. True moral strength doesn't come from pretending you're a saint. It comes from knowing you have the capacity to fail, to be angry, or to be self-centered, but choosing consciously to act differently. This knowledge is freedom. Think about a time you felt completely overwhelmed by anxiety or rage. Perhaps you felt paralyzed by the fear of being assertive at work, leading you to silently resent your colleagues. This intense fear of stepping out of line is often the repressed warrior archetype trapped in your shadow. Your conscious mind fears the consequences of being powerful, but your soul is yearning for that assertiveness. The fear is the guardrail keeping you stuck. So, how do we begin this work? The first step in facing the shadow is sheer acknowledgement. You have to sit down and ask yourself, what qualities do I immediately judge, despise, or fear in others? That intense reaction is usually a direct mirror of something you cannot accept in yourself. If you hate arrogance, ask where you have repressed your own healthy ambition. If you despise selfishness, where have you sacrificed your own needs to the point of exhaustion? Next, we must engage in a dialogue with our fear. This sounds abstract, but it's profound. Jung encouraged active imagination and treating the shadow as a distinct entity. Instead of just feeling fear, try writing down what your fear wants to tell you. What is the fear protecting? Often, the darkness is merely an overzealous protector, misguidedly using crippling anxiety to keep you from engaging with the scary, successful parts of life. The unconscious mind loves to talk to us through symbols, and the most accessible way to listen is through our dreams. Jung placed immense value on dreams as direct messages from the shadow and the unconscious. That recurring nightmare where you are being chased, or where you lose everything, isn't random static. It's a vital clue about the repressed feelings or potential that you are running from in waking life. Start keeping a dream journal, Sahabat. It's truly a map to your hidden self. We often talk about the archetypes like the hero, the mother, the wise old man, but even fear is tied to archetypal energies. When you refuse to acknowledge your inner destroyer archetype, the capacity to break down old structures or habits, you become terrified of change, leading to rigidity and stagnant fear. By recognizing that these powerful energies exist, we can harness them constructively instead of letting them destroy us accidentally. Consider the phenomenon of the fear of success. Many people sabotage opportunities not because they fear the workload, but because success demands that they fully inhabit their shadow. It requires ruthless efficiency, boundary setting, and perhaps even minor, necessary confrontation. If you've spent your whole life being nice and conflict avoidant, facing that successful, assertive self can feel like meeting a terrifying stranger. This journey demands immense courage because it forces us to look at the moral complexities of our nature. Jung said we must acknowledge that we all possess the potential for darkness, for cruelty, selfishness, and deceit. This isn't morbid. It's liberating. Once you know you possess the capacity for harm, you can consciously choose good, making your morality robust and authentic, rather than a fragile construct based on naivety. When integration truly starts to happen, the emotional impact is immediate and transformative. Fear doesn't vanish entirely. Fear is a survival mechanism, after all, but the crippling anxiety and the feeling of fragmentation fade away. You feel lighter, more grounded, and authentically yourself, because you're no longer expending massive energy maintaining an artificial, perfect facade. This is what Jung meant by achieving wholeness. One of the biggest obstacles we face is the fear of being seen. We worry that if we integrate our shadow, if we accept our flaws and our messy history, the world will reject us. But ironically, true connection happens not through perfection, but through vulnerability. When we accept our own darkness, we become infinitely more compassionate and accepting of the flaws in others. That deep well of judgment often runs dry. Tell me, Kalyan, have you ever felt that strange sense of being fragmented? Like parts of you are constantly fighting each other, leading to endless internal anxiety? If so, you are experiencing the war between the ego, the conscious self, and the neglected shadow. The intensity of your current fears is simply the volume level of your shadow, trying desperately to get your attention and be brought into the light. So, let's make this practical. Start small. Take one quality you hate in others, say extreme loudness, and write down 3 hypothetical situations where that trait could actually be beneficial. For example, getting a point across in a large meeting, commanding respect, expressing joy loudly. By reframing those negative traits, you begin the slow, gentle process of reintegrating the energy behind them. It's like turning coal into diamond. Ultimately, Jung's message on fear is a message of profound hope. The thing that haunts you, that inner darkness, that overwhelming anxiety, is not a curse. It is a powerful catalyst. It is the raw, untamed engine of your psyche, waiting for you to stop fearing it and start steering it. The path to the light runs directly through the darkness. You must descend into your own depths to retrieve the treasures you abandoned long ago. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into Jungian psychology and the terrifying, yet magnificent, journey of shadow integration. Remember, facing your fear isn't about eliminating it. It's about understanding what it's trying to teach you about yourself. If this video resonated with your soul, please hit that like button. Tell me in the comments below, what aspect of your shadow are you ready to face first? Subscribe so you don't miss our next psychological adventure. And definitely share this with someone who needs to hear that their darkness holds their gold. I'll see you in the next one, my friends.